Hi guys. Alright, so I don't know where I left off with the emergence of the goddess, but yeah, here it is. So this is the rest of it. Hopefully. So now in Pierre's Pleiades, I don't know how to say that. The symbolism of the goddess as a regeneratrix forms a set of images and symbols that is abundant in the early Neolithic temples of France. In Pierre's Pleiades, multiple pillars are decorated with large amounts of cup marks. I thought that said cupcakes, cup marks, and striated lines signifying the water aspect of the goddess of regeneration and the waters of life. Now, like the cup marks and the markings of the wavy lines emanating from the center of the claviforms are other Neolithic temples, so water is a symbol of the renewable energy of the goddess as a force of new life, hence her birth and rebirth from the sea. Now, on the stones at Gavrini's temple, which depict an extensive use of wavy and concentric arc motifs radiating from a central vulvar opening. So Gimbutas remarks that the piled up signs seem to say that the creativity of the goddess is inexhaustible and comes from the cosmic deep, which is implied by a variety of adjacent aquatic configurations, and that's the language of the goddess, page 225. So this cosmology of water and birth, as well as rebirth, is an essential element in the Venus temples like Pierre Pleiades that are in proximity to the sea and the rising of the planet from the waters of creation both in the east and in the west. Still so interesting. It is. So, moreover, wait, where did I go? Moreover, as Pierre's Pleiades, there are 13 stones with what appears as figuration humanes, later identified as the Pierre Pleiades style of feminine figures, which typifies almost all of the Morbihan entrance temples, according to a study by A. Maudet de Penhu in 1814. So in this highly significant art form, the cut marks or open circles and the wavy lines of emerging energy fuse to form a symbol at the head of the figure of the goddess. Instead of basin, which is seen at the top of the four-sided pillar at Hagar, the water element of the goddess becomes a wide-open U shape at the top of the goddess's figure. So we have Isis there. So the striations of water are replaced by a single line, so intersecting the U and running down the center of the stone to create the body of the goddess. Now, although the figure is unmistakably human in form, she is headless and abstract, so the U formation and the extended body line of the goddess forms a configuration seen in the upraised arms of adoration of the Minoan, Mycenaean, and Greek goddess and priestesses figures, and in the letter the question mark PSI in the Greek alphabet. So it is also reminiscent of the figure of the goddess as Venus being raised from the sea in her foam-born birth on several depictions, including those in Minoan art and Ludwig's relief, where Aphrodite is raised from the sea by two nymphs. So on the stones at Pierre's Pleiades, the question is at the center of the stone, dividing the stone into two spheres. On one of the most decorated of the goddess figure stones at Pierre Pleiades, each side of the sphere contains four symbols. Two symbols at the top, and at the bottom of each column, four are concentric circles, and the two in the middle are half circles. So these might as well be symbols for the phases of the moon in its full and crescent phases, so in its 8-year cycle as the morning and evening star. Interesting. So moreover, at the top of this stone is a bowl-shaped U that separates the two spheres of Venus with with several lines indicating the crossover from the east to the west that Venus travels in its cycle. So not far from this stone is another indication of the passage temple of Pierres Plates is a Venus temple. It is a stone with a clearly marked tree of life, with its branches reaching to the night sky. Finally, what emerges from the Paleolithic and the very early Neolithic depictions of the goddess of regeneration associated with the cycles of Venus, especially in this part of France, is a simple recurrent symbol that fuses the goddess's attributes of renewing life from the uterine moisture of the feminine in the womb as a basin and a container of life and continuing cycles of feminine energy, merged with a belief in the sacred. So all this is contained in what the Greeks entered into their alphabets as. So what the Minoans represent in the adaptation or adoration figures, and what the French eventually call Marie, and perhaps the Maria of Lochmere. So the emergence of the goddess as a regeneratrix is depicted on the stones in the British Isles in abstract method that is more accurate in detail than the abstract representation in France in its exactness of the cycles of Venus and in astronomy notations overall. Now in Britain, the abstract symbols of the Venus cycle are intricate patterns that replicate the motions of the planet more than the symbols in France that merge the recurrent images associated with regeneratrix, such as water birds, the tree of life, and the V shapes. And finally, a human figure. However, in the emergence of the primordial archetype, the transformative element, whether embodied in human form, which eventually leads to language or embodied in a highly developed language of astronomy, dominates and identifies the archetype in both places. So this transformative element of the primordial archetype in both cultures is merged with one essential transformative characteristic of the archetype, which is the lunar cycle. Amazing. The V's, that's why I'm always doing raise your V's. Always, that's the adoration of Venus. So, where'd I go? So, okay, most prevalent is the merging of the archetype with the transformative symbols of the moon. So, for example, the Table des Marquand stone discovered in the end chamber of the tumulus at Lochmere is in the shape of a closed, pointed U, with markings of the monthly, yearly, and precessional cycles of the moon. Likewise, at Noth, one of 3 mounds of the Bru Nabien, a stone called the calendar stone, displays both the 19-year cycle of the moon as well as the 8-year cycle of Venus. Wow, that's a lot. Venus really gets around. I mean that does fit with, the whole Venus, and sexuality and all that, but now, alright, in Ireland, this is particularly true of many of the stones, such as those discovered at the Bru Nabien, which are unmistakably lunar solar temples. So the transformative character of the primordial archetype is therefore recognizable as both a spiritual and clearly observable essential in the understanding of the sacred feminine in conjunction with the moon. Moreover, as is the case with most accurate calendars, both ancient and modern, the lunar cycles and the cycles of Venus are measured in conjunction with the cycles of the sun. These 3 celestial bodies, the moon, Venus, and the sun, are essential to the forming of the transformative character of the archetype of the feminine because, once again, they represent the powerful triad or trinity of the Celts, used as a central symbol in their religion, the Triskel. So in The Stones of Time, Martin Brennan remarks on the widespread distribution of this theme, with the underlying assumption for which its origins. So Brennan states, the separation of a formless unity into 2 reciprocal principles which generate a third and form the multiplicity of creation is a universal and archaic cosmological idea. So in sky imagery, the sun and the moon represent 2 opposite principles of the stars. Represented as masculine power to complement the transformative character of the sacred archetype of the feminine. Then both the astronomy and the religious sentiment present of coherent ideology. Very interesting. I mean, I'm blurry. Why? I don't know if it's my eyes. I think it's just my eyes. There, maybe that's better. I don't know. But, okay, so, where'd I go? Okay, so Brennan declares that the markings on the stones of the Brunabian and other Neolithic monuments form geometric patterns that essentially unite these realms. So Brennan states the megalithic artist apparently viewed the multiplicity of the stars and the multiplicity of the world below as originating from the same source, and both are seen to conform to basic geometrical structures. So, because there are only 3 celestial objects capable of projecting beams of light and casting shadows, Venus, the Sun, and the Moon, Brennan believes that Venus, with its brilliant light, becomes an object of awe in early astronomies, and its path in the sky bears a close resemblance to the elongated arcs on the stones. The role of Venus, both as a goddess of regeneration and a planet, acts as a guide to uniting the feminine and masculine forces as she transcends from the realm of the earth through the waters to the night sky, traversing the universe. So, no wonder the Greeks referred to her as Aphrodite or Aenia, a goddess of astronomy born from the cosmic force of Uranus, who marries Mother Earth to create the universe. I love that. I love that right there. It's gorgeous. So both the pattern of Venus in the night sky and her brilliant light form a constant yet traveling celestial body that completes the cycles by uniting the feminine and the masculine in a coherent triad of the cosmos. In terms of astronomy, Venus is the force that is able to measure the accurateness of the lunar solar cycle by appearing every 8 years in exact conjunction with the moon and the sun. And in theoretical or spiritual terms, Venus acts as the impetus to uniting the feminine and the masculine as a cosmic force. So Venus may be seen as a kelson of creation that holds the universe triad together. I love it. I love it. So the passage temples of the Brunabian represent the Triskel, or however you say that, Triskel, whatever, which uses the unifying forces of Venus and its transformative properties in much the same way as the Neolithic temples. So the shape and the recesses of the temples, the measuring of celestial light in the passage, the associations with water and water birds, and the intricate patterns in the language of the stones all reflect characteristics of the goddess as a regeneratrix. Like Trilithon, altars at the temples of Hagar and Hel Cephalini in Malta, the passage Temple of Noth east at the Brunabian has a clothed chamber. So likewise, the New Grange passage, Temple of the Brunabian, was a cruciform chamber with 3 recesses to represent the triad of Venus, the moon, and the sun. So Brennan cites 3 roof boxes in the prominent Neolithic temples that mark the cycle of Venus on the entrance of each passage temple. So the first is a stillstone at Gevernus, making Venus in 8 quadrangles. So the second is the lintel at the entrance of the Forknox, Ireland, using watermarks and quadrangles for the 8 years of the Venus cycle. And the third is the roof box at the New Grange. Brennan believes that inherent in the structure of the quadrangle are the concepts of the center and the unification and reconciliation of opposites, because it is basically comprised of 2 triangles, like the goddess herself as a transformer of the feminine and masculine. So her symbol is one of the uniting opposites and is placed as such the entrance to the temples. So now, according to Anthony Murphy in Islands of the Setting Sun, a Dublin Liffey, 2008, the bright light of Venus shines into the chamber of New Range once during its 8-year cycle. that one moment of reconciliation of the cosmos. So according to Murphy, so is year 4 in the 8-year cycle of Venus, when the planet is in the morning star at the winter solstice, at the declination of Venus, when it is 18 degrees west of the sun. Here, the goddess lingers for several days before and after the solstice in a different position in the roof box at twilight, where an observer would be able to see Venus through the roof box if sitting on the floor of the chamber. I understand what that is now. So this moment of reconciliation might have been marked by the ancients as a time of birth, rebirth, and regeneration, typical of the functions of the goddess as a regeneratrix. According to Murphy, the word brew may relate to the notion of rebirth ritual, so coincidental with the solar and lunar functions of Newgrange. Murphy does go on to explain that the Bruna-Bien complex might be considered the womb of the moon, where the temples would take the form of the body of the goddess. The light of Venus shining into the roof box would play the role as a powerful regeneratrix for the womb of the moon. When the light of the sun as a masculine energy force at the winter solstice enters the womb temple, the two phallus-shaped stones in oval settings filled with white quartz that were discovered at the entrances of Newgrange and Noth contribute to this theme. So here, as in the caves of the Paleolithic and the temples of the Neolithic, the entrance is the vulva of the goddess. Now, and the passage chambers act as temples where rebirth and fertility rites most likely took place. That's so interesting. I mean, it's just very interesting. I love it. I love it. So, now, at the end of the cruciform chamber at Newgrange as a basin used for ceremonial rituals, most likely in association with the water aspect of the regeneratrix. According to Murphy, Joseph Campbell cites a local legend about a morning star that cast a beam of light into the basin at Newgrange. Now, Murphy believes that this local legend might well be an enduring myth, perhaps as old as 5 millennia. Noticeable too at Newgrange on several stones on the outside of the passage are cup marks and other water symbols of regeneration and rebirth from the watery realms of the goddess. Most likely it's Murphy's research of the nearby site of Baltray, where Venus is seen rising from the sea. That would be beautiful to see. Although the major connection with the water as sacred source of birth and rebirth at Newgrange is the Boyne River that gracefully flows around the brew, and whose later namesake is Bon, the river goddess of the Tuatha De Danann in Celtic mythology. The passage temple is also associated with another sacred water source, the sea at Baltray. So Murphy remarks that Venus is a female deity represented in Celtic mythology as a calf, whose mother cow is the moon, and both arise from the sea at Baltray, where they have been transformed into stones. So Venus rises from the sea in the southeast at the time of the winter solstice, not far from the Rockabill Islands at Baltray, in her new sacred form, like the sittings of Venus rising from the sea at Malta and in France. Venus rising from the sea at Baltray is marked at the winter solstice, as it is at Newgrange, as a sacred rebirth. Wow, it's just very interesting. Very interesting. Alright, so we will go on with more of this tomorrow. So we will do part 9. Today's part 9, tomorrow will be part 10. So yeah, now we're going to be going into different, like associations, different, basically, like the cow, the goddess, and how she's related to the cow, and, just we're going to get more into, like, temples and what she, her children and all of that, so it's pretty interesting. Interesting. I mean, it's really interesting, honestly. So, Alright, guys. Well, I hope you guys have a great Saturday. And I love you all. I hope you guys enjoy. And yeah, I will see you guys tomorrow. So, I love you all the way from Venus, all the way back down. And I love you all. So, and yeah, thank you guys for all your warm wishes and everything. So, I'll see you guys tomorrow. So, I love you all very much. And everybody have a great rest of your weekend.